Auditory Integration Training, AIT, is an intensive 2-week treatment that strengthens and balances the auditory system. It's meant to help people, both children and adults, who have a condition called hyperacusis. Hyperacusis is hypersensitivity to sound. When a person has hyperacusis, it manifests itself by having really a difficult time processing information because other sounds are louder than the others. For instance, you might dislike silverware banging, vacuum cleaners running, blenders going off, people chewing, noisy environments, flushing public toilets. That can be a problem with a lot of our kids and adults because these noises are so much louder than the everyday noises. It actually is painful hearing for the people who have hyperacusis. Can you imagine sitting in the back of a classroom trying to pay attention to a teacher and the sound of the computer fan is so loud you can't hear what she's saying, or the person shuffling their feet behind you is like an ice pick through your ear to your brain? It's very disruptive for a person who has hypersensitive hearing, which we call hyperacusis. A treatment for this is AIT, which was developed by Dr. Berard out of France, Annecy, France, more than 40 years ago. He treated himself for a hearing loss that he had, went home, and treated his daughter who was learning disabled. She had actual peaks of hypersensitivity in her ears, which is when Dr. Berard evolved his theory that not only is it if you don't hear well enough, but if you have hypersensitive peaks in your hearing, that's also problematic and disabling. For 20% of the population, we hear that way, and people are sensitive to sounds. They can't sift through the noise of everyday life to pay attention to and attend to the important information they need to succeed in life. That's why we have AIT, which is an intensive 2-week treatment to re-educate, strengthen, and balance your auditory system. You come to the clinic for an hour every day, 2 half-hour sessions for 2 weeks. During that time, a patient listens to music fed through a specially designed machine which modulates all the music that's being fed through the headphones to your ears. From 125 hertz, which is very low, way up to 20,000 hertz, which is an extremely high sound. As the sound is modulated, removed, and reintroduced in a random output way, your eardrums flex and extend. As your eardrums flex and extend, I tell the kids it feels like your eardrums are doing push-ups, and as they do that, they're getting stronger, their range of motion is increasing. Well, those eardrums, your tympanic membranes, are attached to the ossicles in your middle ear. Those tiny, tiny bones articulate to conduct sound through them into the cochlea. The final transmission of sound to the brain is in your cochlea in the inner ear, and you have 30,000 hair cells transmitting that into your brain. Well, what we do is stimulate the brain through music all the way through your auditory system by strengthening and balancing the whole system. The nice thing that we see about this is after AIT, you have improved ability to function, concentrate, less distractibility. A person is better able to complete their work and follow directions because hearing is not only involved with the ear. You need to be able to hear sound, but process and make sense out of that information in order to retain it and then retrieve it at will to succeed. AIT does this for a person. And the way that we identify people who need AIT is if you have a child or as an adult you are easily distracted, have difficulty focusing, concentrating, getting work done, and it's difficult to block out the annoying sounds that are going on in your environment, then you might benefit from AIT. The screening procedure is very simple, and after that we can determine if someone would benefit from AIT. Then during the treatment, we strengthen and balance your auditory system. All the improvements are noted immediately during the 2-week treatment. But the exciting thing is we continue to see improvement at 3-month intervals for a year post-treatment. Things will improve more and more, 3, 6, 9, and 12 months post-treatment. And then after a year, those developments and improvements are usually what we see, and they stick for the person who received AIT.
The first concern that we had was we noticed that Kaylee was withdrawing from us. She was going off to be alone. And she's just a very quiet girl, very studious little girl. But she really had a hard time being a part of something and being a part of people, or, of a group of people. And so I'd had concerns about that. And also, parents know their children. It doesn't matter how many tests your kids take. It doesn't matter the curriculum you use. It doesn't matter how many teachers or tutors you take them to. You know your child. And something told me that this little girl had a whole lot more potential, and there was something in the way. And we brought her in and had her tested, and it turned out that her ears were hearing at different levels. And so we had her go through the auditory integration training, and immediately we noticed that we would be sitting in a room and Kaylee would be off by herself and she would come seek us out. That was the first thing that we noticed, is that she wasn't trying to hide from the world anymore, and she was starting to enjoy and to join in and to be a part of our family.
Well, when Jack first came to AIT, I think we had, 5 words is what I had him that I could actually understand and that he could communicate to us. And almost immediately following AIT therapy, I could count 50 words. I'm not even exaggerating about that. 50 words that we could understand, and or we knew he was trying to say. And we also noticed that he was completely more organized and seemed to hear better. I think one of the things with him being autistic, you notice right away, is that he seems like he can't hear. And we know he can. We've had his hearing tested, and he could hear better. I mean, what seemed like to us. So the frustration level came down a million notches, it seemed like, for both he and Tim and I.
When I was a school teacher, I was teaching 5th grade and I also taught 2nd grade, and I sent many children to Lori because I could notice that they were having difficulty paying attention in the classroom. This one child in particular, he would complain every time the classroom 2 doors down was having a video, and he'd put his hands to his ear and he says, "How can we pay attention in here with all that noise from the video?" That was 2 classrooms away. And so I sent him to Lori, and after he was here for 2 weeks, that was not an issue anymore.
I've always been able to tell, just by looking at students in a classroom, if their ear-brain connection was working smoothly or if there was some resistance. With Lori's help, all the students who take the program make improvements. They often make a jump right away, but it also continues to grow and develop over time. What I find as the teacher is that they will pay better attention. They won't resist as new concepts come up. They go from being reluctant to eager to work with new concepts. I find that the children that needed AIT and have taken the program go from never asking questions in class to letting their native intelligence come through, raising their hand. And so for me, it just makes it easier for the child to learn when the need for AIT is indicated.
I had a student in my class, a 6-and-a-half-year-old boy, who came in fairly shy and quiet, was always reticent to communicate in the context of the class, raise his hand, ask questions, etc. He was offered an opportunity to go through the screening process of AIT through our school, and his parents agreed, and he took the training. And over the course of the next several months, he exhibited profound changes in his willingness and ability to communicate within the classroom context. He was always a high-functioning child. He was beginning to read and spell, and his handwriting was wonderful, and he was able to keep himself very focused and together within the setting of the classroom. However, that resistance to share verbally and his sensitivity to auditory input was noticeable, and AIT made a very effective and profound change in him over the course of the 1.5 years that I've had him in class.
For more than 50 years, auditory integration training has been a proven non-drug, non-invasive therapy for people with hyperacusis. Many hyperacusis sufferers have asymmetrical hearing, or uneven hearing between their left and right ears. AIT evens out the hearing levels and allows the auditory system to regulate and filter sound. In just 2 weeks, AIT can reverse a lifetime of struggle and frustration, all without drugs. By strengthening and balancing a previously overtaxed hearing system, AIT removes the debilitating noise that often prevents hyperacusis sufferers from reaching their full potential and opens them up to a world of new possibilities.